Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are all doing well. In this episode of working on my Mandalorian suit, I'm going to cover all the soft parts, the clothing. This is going to be a little bit of a different format than normal videos because I have recorded previous things that while I was working on it, I was recording. And then also I'm going to talk about some stuff now that it's all finished and go through that as well. But first I want to show you how I did these wraps as well as the cape and a couple other things. Part of the process was staining them and doing a couple of other things. So I'm going to cut to that right now. Alright, so I cut the cape out. I had to make it in two pieces, so there's this one long strip right here, and then I created this thicker strip at the end, and I just sewed it on, which is perfectly fine because you're not going to be able to see it anyways. But this way, this part basically wraps around your neck, and then that's the actual cape part, which you want to be much wider so it can cover your back more. But what we're doing now is I've got some more of these wraps too that's going to go around my arms and various places. But I'm just boiling some water right now, and then we're going to put this tea in and then let that sit for maybe 10 minutes with the tea bags in it, and then we're going to dump all of these in and let those sit for, I don't know, an hour and a half or so. So we got this boiling now, and we added our tea bags. Just gonna leave it in here, like I said, for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll add the cloth. So I just took all those pieces out of the boiling water, and now I have them just drying in the sun right behind me. And there's quite a difference. Unfortunately, I don't have like a unstained piece with me right now, but the difference is just, night and day. So I would definitely recommend either tea staining. I know you can do coffee staining as well if you want a darker color, but it's just like an essential to giving it an aged look. I'm just going to let these pieces all dry now, and then we'll get to weathering them or tearing them up. What I'm doing right now is I'm just taking this Mod Podge and this old paintbrush that was going to be trash anyways because it was the bristles were so hard. But I'm just going around the edges here, and then where I sewed these two pieces together, I'm going around there as well. This just prevents any fraying. As you can see, there's a lot of just fraying happening all over this because, it's being stirred around in the pot, a lot of tea. So yeah, there's a lot of fraying, but what I do is before I go and I just cut off all these super long ones, and then I'll just basically paint over that with glue on the edges, specifically Mod Podge because that's really good for this, and that'll prevent any fraying in the future. I have one over here currently that's drying, and also the glue gives it this really nice kind of aged look around the edges. But this is really tough now. That's not going to fray anymore. And then I have a completed one over here. After I did further weathering, tearing it up, doing some burning, and I also did some brown spray paint just around the edges. And yeah, that's what the cape is going to eventually look like. But this is going to take a really long time to do, but it is definitely worth it. Alright, so what we're going to do next is this glue around this side isn't completely dry, but I'm going to start down at this end, and we're really going to start tearing this thing up. I got this sandpaper here, and let me grab my knife too. I got my knife over here, and what you're going to want to do is basically just start sanding it very roughly, different directions. It's kind of hard to do without holding the fabric with my other hand, but if you do it in one spot over and over and over, obviously it's going to rough that spot up more. As you can see, you got some fraying again, which that's not going to be bad because it's not on the edges, so it's not like there's going to be strands coming off or anything. But that's the next step, is I'm just going to do that over this entire thing. I also am going to hold it up in the air and then with my knife just kind of slash at it. Maybe I'll get some, you know, cut marks, just really anything to make this look worn. Again, with weathering, you're telling a story, and for my specific Mandalorian suit, I want it to, you know, tell a story that he's been through numerous fights, and, you know, he's been living in the slums of the Coruscant underworld, basically. And by the techniques I use in weathering, I can reflect that story. It's really an interesting art form, honestly, and it's super fun too. So I'm just going to do that over the entire cape. So I've really streaked up a lot of the edges here, put some holes in. It's looking great. Now what I'm going to do next is I put this cardboard over here. I'm going to just go over the edges and some brown spray paint. To completing the weathering is this. Oh, I cut myself. I'm just going to go over some areas, specifically the holes, especially around the edges. You don't want to burn it too much, but just to give it some, you know, I guess more color. But yeah, that's the next step. So yeah, that's the process on how I stained and weathered the cape, the wraps, and then also this piece that goes around my waist. That's kind of like a corset, which I'll explain this in further detail. All right, so when I started working on this, it was supposed to be kind of like a girth belt, which a lot of Mandalorian costumes have, and then they have the actual leather belt with the holster and leather pouches attached to that go over this thing. But how I did this was I got this scrap piece of cloth right here, just generic white cloth, and then I cut out these strips. These were all one piece, and these were, you know, like the wraps, but then I cut them and then made, you know, the, let's see if I can show it. Made like a unique design so that it wasn't, you know, all just going one direction. You know, I have some diagonal and up and down, side to side. But yeah, so I have all these strips now of cloth, and what I did was I just glued them all onto this, you know, generic white piece of cloth. I don't know what specific material, but it really doesn't matter. And then to attach it, I needed something stronger than this that wouldn't fray as easily. And so I got this leather. This is actually fake leather, so it's not real genuine leather, but it still works really well. And I just have these little grommets. I don't know if that's the right word. What I can do to attach this is it's basically, it attaches the same way as a corset. And so you just line these up, and then I say a corset, but it's also like shoes. I just run a shoelace through these, and I know you can't see what I'm doing, so I'll hold it up in a second here. But yeah, so I just run a shoelace through that, and then, you know, back and forth all the way to the top, and then I tie it, and then it goes around my waist like that, and then I tie it after I put it around my waist, which I originally have it like this while I'm tying it, and then I turn it around so that this is in the back. But yeah, that's how I created that midsection belt thingy. For my holster here, when I bought this whole holster off of Etsy, the belt and the holster and the pouches, they're all one thing. And the holster unfortunately didn't fit the gun. So what I had to do was the original holster kind of went like that, and the gun wouldn't fit in that little slot. So I cut the gap, or where it was sewn together right there, and then I put a piece of cardboard around it so that these wraps would keep its shape. And yeah, then I just wrapped that around and glued it all on. And I don't know if you can see in there, but you can actually just see that's where the leather ended right there, and I just extended it with a piece of cardboard so that the gun would fit in. The other thing that I added on the holster, well, a couple of things actually, is I added this thingy, this cloth, which I don't know what would really be for, just it adds something to the costume, but I did this the exact same way as the wraps. I, dyed it or stained it with the tea, and then all the other steps of slashing it, cutting it, spray painting it, yeah, everything was the same. And then for this is actually a trophy belt, or supposed to be, right? Because my character is a bounty hunter, so he might take trophies from the victims that he, I guess he would kill them sometimes, which that's pretty dark, but Boba Fett has a similar thing with the Wookiee hair hanging down from, I think it's his shoulder. But yeah, just these various things that I got at Hobby Lobby and attached to this string. No idea what this would be. Really, I don't know what any of these would be. This is kind of like a tooth or something. And then I just added this too out of some cloth that has like hair on it. And then I just glued that together so that can be, I don't know, maybe say a Wookiee or something. A little trophy from a Wookiee, which again is pretty dark, but it all adds to the character. And then I showed you the cape, but I want to show you the full finished result, which I went back after I recorded all that, and I spray painted it some more because I didn't think it was weathered enough, and just made it a lot dirtier and darker, make it look grimier. So that's the cape. And then I have this piece of Velcro right here so it will attach to my shoulder pad and drape over correctly so it won't be falling over my shoulder. And then, yeah, I went back and redid everything with more paint, so that's a lot dirtier. But yeah, so that's how I did all of the wraps and the cape, the holster, all that stuff. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about, which is honestly probably one of the most important parts, is the actual flight suit itself, which goes underneath everything else. And for that, I just bought a flight suit off of Etsy again, just the same as the holster, not the same seller, but I got a lot of the pieces off of Etsy. And so this thing came in, these are the pants, but this came in, pristine condition, and I didn't do anything to it originally. I put everything on the mannequin, and for a while I was super happy with that, and then I realized that it kind of stuck out because of how perfect it is compared to everything else. So the other day I just went back over it, and you can see that it's a lot more weathered now. I took several colors of spray paint. I took brown, I took light gray, and I took dark gray, and just kind of misted over it. And you can't see it super well, but even if you don't see it, it definitely adds something. And then I also, with the sandpaper, I kind of sanded it, roughed it up with a knife. And then what added the most, like this discoloration here, is I actually took some baby powder and just threw it on there and smeared it all over. And I did that same thing on the vest, on the sleeves here. And I only did this on where the armor and the wraps would not cover, because I didn't want to waste a bunch of paint on something that would just cover it up. that didn't make much sense to me. So I just did it on this sleeve right here, which I'll try to show you where that is in comparison to everything else. So this is where the shoulder pad goes over, and then there's this sleeve, and then the secondary sleeve underneath. But yeah, I just did that on either one of these. And then on the vest that goes over that, I didn't really do anything to this. A little bit got on down here, which is good because the chest piece didn't, you know, it doesn't cover the entire vest. It covers most of it. But yeah, so that's how I weathered the flight suit, just spray paint and baby powder. And that's pretty much it. I almost forgot to mention the boots, which this is actually a really important part, because if you know, slack off in one part of the costume, it actually, you know, it takes down the whole value, if that makes sense. And so I was just going to wear generic boots with laces, and then I realized that's not really canonical to the Star Wars universe, because there wouldn't be, you know, you never see shoelaces in Star Wars. So what I got were these boots with a zipper on the side, and then this boot cover that just goes over the top and velcros into place like that. So it's a lot taller. And so those boots I actually am borrowing from, I have a Batman cosplay, and these are the same boots that came with that one. And so I'm just stealing that off of, stealing the boots off of that suit, just because they work so well for this one too. And that way I don't have to spend extra money on an extra pair of shoes that I don't have room to store. But yeah, that's how I did all of the cloth pieces and the shoes and everything. I'm hoping next week I'll be able to post a video about the actual armor, helmet, and how to attach that to the costume. I know that for me at least, this is a longer video, so thank you for watching to the end. That means a lot. Please consider liking and subscribing. It just helps out the channel a whole lot. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.